tracking things. So in a traditional monastery, there are 7 halls. And the person who is stepping into the role of governing that would do 7 quorums, 1 at each of those halls. So rather than 7, I'm going to do 3. I'm going to do the temple gate, the front door, the ancestor and founders altar, and then the Buddha hall, which winds up being this whole room. Then I'm going to, then I'm going to do an invocation, which I've borrowed from another tradition to kind of consecrate this space. And then there's a little water blessing that I'm going to do. And then we'll do an entry, vows, our 3 services, which are the Heart Sutra, the Shosai Myo Kichido Dharani, which is the Dharani for averting calamity. And in the dedication of that, there will be a place for us to add names to send healing energy. So we're going to send the merits of that recitation to Julie Zuiko Redding, who has been connected with the center for a number of years and is in Cedar Rapids and is going through a healing situation. And then the camp leader will say and or, and then people can just say quietly, say names out loud of anyone that they want to send that energy to. And then we'll do the Enmei-juku Kanagyo. There's a copy floating around with Sino-Japanese. Then I'll get a little talk, and then we'll do what's called Dharma combat. And it's there are 2 times that this happens. One is when a person is the head trainee or a head monk, and they give their first Dharma talk to the community. And it's an acknowledgement by both the teacher and the community that the person is stepping into a position of having something to say and being able to offer some guidance. And so they give their first talk on a koan, and then people have the opportunity to kind of challenge their understanding. It's meant to be very light and playful, not necessarily grave and serious. And then it also happens during this ceremony of ascending the mountain, in which one gets to try to stump the Roshi. So we'll do that. There was a list floating around with people's names on it. I couldn't make sure that it flows in sequence and there's no awkward silence. And then we will wrap up with the Bodhisattva vows. And so thank you all. I'm very humbled to step into this role of helping us help ourselves. I'll be right back.
Are you doing video?
We'll cover the priest has his booties.
Yeah.
Walking through this temple gate 37 years ago, and this morning, same yet different. This being, same yet different. Sometimes I can see them both looking back at me in the mirror. In this moment, being one with the patriarchs and the matriarchs, all sitting, all bowing, all rejoicing this morning. One moment, a living room. This moment, a Buddha hall. Two families, different moments, same intention, love. Old teacher. Consecration of the space. In the infinite circle of the divine presence which completely envelops us, I affirm that there is only one presence here. It is harmony, which makes all hearts vibrate with happiness and joy. Whoever enters here will feel the vibration of harmony. There is only one presence here. It is loving kindness. Being is love, which envelops all beings in a single feeling of unity. This space is filled with the presence of loving kindness. In loving kindness, we live, we move, we exist. Whoever enters here will feel the pure and holy presence of love. There is only one presence here. It is truth. All that exists here, all that is spoken here, all that is thought here is the expression of truth. Whoever enters here will feel the presence of truth. There is only one presence here. It is justice. Justice reigns in this space. Every act practiced here is ruled and inspired by justice. Whoever enters here will feel the presence of justice. Through the esoteric symbol of the divine wings, I am in a harmonious vibration with the universal currents of wisdom, power, and joy. The presence of wisdom is manifested here. The presence of joy is deeply felt by all those who enter here. In the perfect communion between my lower self and my higher self, which is the awakened nature of all beings, I consecrate this space to the perfect expression of all these qualities which are in me and which flow through me and in all beings and which flow through all beings. The vibrations of my thoughts are the forces of presence and awareness in me, which are stored here and hence radiated to all beings, thus establishing this place as a center of giving and receiving all that is good, joyful, and prosperous. We express our gratitude for we live in life, truth, health, prosperity, peace, wisdom, love, compassion, and joy. We express our gratitude for we live in harmony, loving kindness, truth, and justice with all beings. Everything is new and fresh. So we're gonna do bows and standing bows.
The Mahaprajna Paramita Vida Sutra.
Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva, in practicing deeply the Prajna Paramita, perceived that all five skandhas are empty and was saved from all suffering and distress. So Shariputra form does not differ from emptiness. Emptiness does not differ from form. That which is form is emptiness. That which is emptiness form. The same is true of feelings, perceptions, impulses, consciousness. So Shariputra, all dharmas are marked with emptiness. They do not appear nor disappear, are not tainted nor pure, do not increase nor decrease. Therefore in emptiness, no form, no feelings, no perceptions, no impulses, no consciousness, no eyes, no ears, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no color, no sound, no smell, no taste, no touch, no object of mind, no realm of lies, and so forth, until no realm of mind consciousness, no ignorance, and also no extinction of it, and so forth, until no old age and death, and also no extinction of them, no suffering, no origination, no stopping, no path, no cognition, also no attainment, with nothing to attain. The Bodhisattva depends on Prajna Paramita, and the mind is no hindrance. Without any hindrance, no fears exist. Far apart from every perverted view, the Bodhisattva dwells in nirvana. In the three worlds, all Buddhas depend on Prajna Paramita and attain unsurpassed, complete, perfect enlightenment. Therefore know the Prajna Paramita is the great transcendent mantra, is the great bright mantra, is the utmost mantra, is the supreme mantra, which is able to relieve all suffering and is true, not false. So proclaim the Prajna Paramita mantra, proclaim the mantra that says Gate, Gate, Para, Gate, Parasamgate, Bodhisattva.
The Buddha nature pervades the whole universe. Right here and now, in reciting the Mahaprajna Paramita Heart Sutra, we dedicate its merits to the great teacher Shakyamuni Buddha Daisho, Japanese Soto Hongdin teachers Eihei Dogen Daisho and Soji Kaizen Daisho, and the first generation American teachers Dainen Kaigen Daisho and Teizan Mezumi Daisho. May we appreciate the compassionate teaching of these great teachers and show our gratitude by accomplishing the awakened Buddha way together.
All Buddhas, 10 directions, 3 worlds. All venerable ones, Bodhisattva, Mahasattvas, wisdom,
the absolute light, luminous throughout the whole universe, unfathomable excellence penetrating everywhere. Wherever this devoted invocation is sent forth, it is perceived and subtly answered. We dedicate these merits to all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in the realm of the Prajna wisdom, to the 16 guardians, and to all protectors of the Dharma and their relations throughout space and time. We pray for the health and well-being of all those afflicted with diseases of body and mind or spirit, all those working towards the healing of those afflictions, and to the healers. We especially pray for Reverend
Julie Zwico Redding,
and for
Justin Peter Webb.
Douglas and Kristen.
may these be serene through all their lives, all their ills, and may we realize the awakened Buddha way together.
All Buddhas, 10 directions, 3 worlds, all venerable ones, Bodhisattva, Mahasattvas, wisdom beyond wisdom,
and may Juku Kanangyo
Kanzeon Namu Butsuyo Butsuyu in Yo Butsuyu in Bupo So en Jo Rakuga Jo Chonen Kanzeon Bonen Kanzeon Nen Nen Jushin Ki Nen Nen Furishin Kanzeon Namu Butsuyo Butsuyu in Yo Butsuyu in Bupo So en Jo Rakuga Jo Chonen Kanzeon Bonen Kanzeon Nen Nen Jushin Ki Nen Nen Furishin Kanzeon Namu Butsuyo Butsuyu in Yo Butsuyu in Bupo So en Jo Rakuga Jo Chonen Kanzeon Bonen Kanzeon Nen Nen Jushin Ki Nen Nen Furishin Kanzeon at one with Buddha, directly Buddha, also indirectly Buddha, and indirectly Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, joyful, pure, eternal being. Morning mind is Kanzeon, evening mind is Kanzeon. Nen Nen arises from mind. Nen Nen is not separate from mind. Kanzeon now one with Buddha, directly Buddha, also indirectly Buddha, and indirectly Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, joyful, pure, eternal being. Morning mind is Kanzeon, evening mind is Kanzeon, Nen arises from mind, Nen is not separate from mind, Kanzeon at one with Buddha, directly Buddha, also indirectly Buddha, and indirectly Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, joyful, pure, eternal being. Morning mind is Kanzeon, evening mind is Kanzeon, Nen arises from mind, Nen is not separate from mind.
May this compassionate Dhamma be extended to all beings, and may our sincere vows accomplish the awakened way we realize together.
All Buddhas, 10 directions, 3 worlds. All venerable ones, Bodhisattvas, Mahasattvas, wisdom beyond wisdom, Mahaprajna Paramita.
Prepare for Dharma.
Daiken-san, if people are going to be asking questions, do you want the other laptop so you can see them? It's up to you either way.
Maybe we just do the local folks.
Morning.
So this moment, just as it is, it's the Iowa City Zen Center taking a step in a direction. There seems to be a consensus among folks here that they want the center to thrive and grow, and to let other people know about this offering that we have for people to come and be. And so through an unfathomable number of conditions arising, here I am. Here we are. Here the Iowa City Zen Center is in this moment, with this intention of moving forward to be able to offer a space for people, an opportunity for people, a community for people, to be able to take a backward step and turn their light inward to experience their life just as it is, and to become more themselves and less this amalgam of ideas and culture and politics and history and all of that. So I've been asked to provide some guidance for that. As I alluded to in the first poem, I first walked into the Iowa City Zen Center on May 6th, 1987. And that was the beginning of me stepping onto a path. Possibly not for the first time, but one of the early times of me taking a pause to discern where I was at that moment and what was available in front of me and where I might start, what direction I might start, knowing that I'm not going to wind up anywhere that I can imagine. And so here I am circling back. One friend said it's kind of this Odyssean journey of, instead of 10 years, 30 some years of coming back to a semblance of the place where I started. And so I bring, on one level, I bring nothing. Sorry.
Close?
And I also bring, years of experience of working with a number of different teachers and their different experiences and teaching styles and their own path and practice and how that manifested for them and their teachers and And I also bring I guess the only thing that I can represent is someone who stayed on the path, who, you know, with lots of different periods of my life, lots of different places, lots of different activities, there was always this kind of foundation of practice. And in the last dozen years or so, since I returned to New York after wandering around and studying with my teacher and becoming a full priest with him, learning all of the priestly activities of baby blessings and weddings and funerals and memorials and other rites of passages like the trainee and Jukai, ordination and those things. And then being authorized to teach in 2013, it's become more of a focus for me. It's become more present in my life that this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm choosing to do. This is what has chosen me in this time to offer whatever I might to whoever I encounter, to encourage them and also nudge them and do my best to do that from this place of loving kindness and compassion and equanimity and sharing the joys and sorrows with others. In my travels, I was at a center and a guest teacher from the Tibetan tradition was passing through, and he was asking folks, it's, you know, what should I give a Dharma talk about? And at that point, some of us who'd been there for a while were kind of working through issues of the teacher-student relationship. And he said, oh, I can talk about it. So he said that he learned from his teacher and made it his practice in working with his own students that there were several points to be aware of, and that there were 3 points of responsibility for the teacher and 2 points of responsibility for the student. So the first responsibility of the teacher is to always keep the well-being of the student at the forefront of the relationship. It's never about the teacher and what's in it for them. There are benefits, there are, you know, good things, there are good challenges, there's good trouble that happens. But it's always about what's in the best interest of the student. And that can take a variety of forms. It can be deep love, it can be tough love, it can be guidance in the tradition, it could be some other guidance that the teacher discerns is helpful at this time. But there's that intention and that focus, and also almost a vow to keep that well-being of the student at the forefront of the relationship. The second responsibility is to provide skillful means, provide opportunities, teachings, practices that could be made use of by the students. So mantra practice, sutra copying, sutra chanting, koan practice, sitting, things like tenzo practice, all sorts of things that bring the student to the present moment And so it's the teacher's responsibility to kind of look around them, him or herself, to absorb those opportunities to be able to pass them on to others. And the third responsibility is to embody those teachings to the best of one's ability. Being aware of one's humanity and their divinity, their kind of higher self and lower self, and keeping that in check. And circling back to the first one of keeping the well-being of the student at the forefront of the relationship. So one does their best in expressing the practice as they understand it for the benefit of all beings and for students that are around. And the two responsibilities of the student are to take in those teachings to the best of their ability, to listen and to see what resonates. Some people will never do koan practice. It's just not for them, and that's fine. It's not. And there may be a teacher for whom that's the mode of study. And so then that person finds another teacher to practice with. And that's all fine. Teachers can decide what the nature of their practice is going to be, and then they attract people who resonate with that or not. And the second responsibility is to not pick and choose. So there are these teachings available, and not for the student to decide, oh, well, I like that, but that's too tough. I'm not going to do that. Or I like this. I really like this one. So I really want to do this one, and maybe not so much that one. So it's not, it's not a menu. It's not saying, here are all of these things that I offer, and pick one that you like. It's more, here's the whole thing, and make use of it as you wish. We'll work on this together. We'll find ways to help in the understanding of whatever the practice is, and then finding a way to express that. And in terms of the teacher-student relationship, it varies. Once upon a time, a 9-year-old would be sent by his family to a monastery so that they could be fed and get an education. And they stayed there for the rest of their life. And that's what they did. They ordained as a novice and became a monk and learned, the practices and the chants and, how to be in a community like that. And that's what they did. They were a renunciate, and they lived their life as a monk or a nun. And sometimes somebody would find a teacher and study with them, and the teacher would send them off somewhere else. They go over to Mount wherever and go chat with whoever that teacher is, because they have a different understanding, and so that could be the practice. And here in the West, it could be that someone finds a teacher and stays with them through the majority of their lives together. And it can also be the case that the person studies with one person for a while and then studies with another person for a while. I received Jukai from Nonin Choweni. After Kadagiri's passing, he had 12 successors. And after Kadagiri passed away, they were all kind of kicked out of the nest and needed to figure out where they wanted to be. And so Iowa City was blessed with 4 of them passing through, Nonin and Shokin and Tejo Munich, who has started a women's oriented center down in North Carolina. And Yugo Conniff, who now is in Los Angeles and has a sitting group and a sewing practice. And they would come, and some people resonated with them, and Zuiko also kind of came to be of service and help them. A person who had been in the practice for a long time and could be helpful. And so, Nonan said that he would be willing to guide us through taking refuge in the practice and sewing our rakasu's and studying the precepts and going through the Kai ceremony. So there were 5 of us who did that. And then Nonan kind of wandered off and wound up in Omaha. And so then I was here practicing, and then I moved and went to the Zen Center, moved to Los Angeles and found the Zen Center there, and have been studying with teachers within that white plum lineage of Maizumi Roshi. And I ordained with one teacher and chose not to follow him. After a while, was asked by another teacher to relocate, studied with them for a couple of years, and that there's a big shift in that practice. So then I wound up in New York and studied with the teacher for 8 years, and we had a bit of a falling out. So then I was asked by another teacher to move and help her. We had a falling out. There might be a pattern. And then I wound up back in New York and found a teacher who I'd met many years beforehand, and began to study and practice and literally work together with him as an expression of our practice. And then completed my studies and was empowered to be a teacher. And so I've had many teachers, and I've resonated with each of them on some level for a period of time. And then circumstances happened, conditions happened, and then it was time for us to go our separate ways. So the agreement with the board is that I'm here for a year, and we'll see where that goes from there. And people may have another teacher that they resonate with already, that they feel connected to, that they've been practicing and studying with. They may be involved with other centers here in town or other traditions and come here, for a period of time. That's all fine. There's no expectation that teacher-student relationship will develop. It may, or it may not. I'm not here to say you must be my student. That is a relationship that develops over time. And there's a resonance in communication and a connection that develops over time. Sometimes it's very clear. It's like, wow, this person really, the way in which they speak or what they have to say or how they teach, that really is meaningful to me. So I'm going to do this for a while. And other times it may be slower. Other times it may be, there's this person there and he gives talks and he gives some guidance, and I'm willing to, participate in that, and that's fine. And, there are a couple people already from the Iowa City group who we have developed that kind of working relationship, and we meet and have conversations and are doing some study and practice together. And so, that's an option. That's an opportunity for us all to be together, to do no harm, do good for others, to follow the precepts and the guidance, and to find ways to acknowledge our way of doing things. See what serves us and what doesn't. What separates us from both the experience of our own experience and what separates us from others. And to be vulnerable and open one's heart to accepting everything just as it is. That includes me when I wake up and tired and cranky, or that includes someone else who comes in and doesn't arrange their boots correctly. Whatever, thing that pops up as an idea or a judgment or an expectation. So we're doing that internally with ourselves, and we're also doing that collectively with each other. So we extend metta, loving kindness, and karuna, compassion, towards ourselves, and we also do that with others. That ultimately, that is the foundation of our practice. And we do that focused on the meditation, and if that involves koan practice, that's great. If that involves studying to receive the precepts, then that's great. But ultimately, it's about just showing up to our own life and showing up to the life of this community. And being willing to let go of the way that it's been done. Yesterday I spoke about, kind of the piece of paper and the dollar bill. And how they're both pieces of paper, but they have different currency, but they have different expressions. And in the same way that we're all human beings, we're all Buddhas. We're all awake. We're all present to our lives to a degree. And our practice is to acknowledge that in others, as well as in ourselves, and to work towards decreasing the separation that we make, that our society or our upbringing or humanity has brought us to. So as I mentioned, I'm honored and humbled to be able to return to the same place as the same person in a different moment as a different person, and offer whatever I can to be of service to this center and its family, its members. We'll stop with that. And now the fun parts. We'll do the Dharma combat. Some people don't like the word combat, so they call it Dharma dialogue. So do we have that list?
Yeah.
The folks? Yeah. Angel, if you could kind of, and if you followed instructions, you do what you were told. If you remember who you followed, and then we'll just kind of go through.
You want to read the list just so people can remember?
Sure, that's a good idea.
Homeo, Laura, Jeff, Ben, Nicholas, Steve, Lauren, Judy, Angel.
Okay, that should be enough. So typically how this works is both in our show, the person asks their question, there's a response, a dialogue, and then the person who posed the question says, thank you for your answer. And then I say, may your life go well. And then the next person will move from there. And as I said, it's meant to be playful and fun and not terribly grave or serious. If it winds up going down that cul-de-sac, then that's where it is.
Reverend Daiken Nelson,
Hi,
we are asked to honor Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Can you speak to us of Sangha?
I speak of nothing but. Um, I'm not fond of this phrase, but as one teacher says, this is where the rubber meets the road. You know, it's great to have this concept or idea about the awakened, unstained, pure being nature of all things as they are, and the expressions of those as dharmas and teachings. But where it really comes into practice is in Sangha. We acknowledge each other as an embodiment of that awakened nature. We see each other as sentient beings that are in this state of unsatisfactoriness because of their lives and conditioning and ideas that lead them to, suffer. And so our work is to, spread the good news that there's a way out of that, and we do our best to provide a space for people to feel welcome and comfortable to be able to do whatever their own process is. So that's the essence of the practice. It's easy to be a hermit on the top of a mountain by oneself, but it's more difficult to wander down and go into the marketplace and have to deal with other beings living their life.
Thank you for your answer.
May your life go.
So yeah, I have a question. I can. So this is kind of wacky, maybe, but is evolution true, or is it both true and false?
Yes. It's one way of explaining things. It's one system, it's one language, it's one understanding of the nature of reality. In Buddhism, we talk about the beginningless beginning and the endless end. So people can have theories and test them and come up with, studies and experiments and all of these things to prove this and that. And it's just one understanding amongst many. And if that's where a person lands, if that's what they resonate with, then that's fine. But ultimately, it's just one understanding. It's one way of looking. The other is that God buried dinosaur bones to challenge our faith. That's another way of looking. neither are more true or less true. They're just their beliefs and ideas that people have about the nature of reality. And so our work is to not grab onto any one of them as being true, or the right answer, or the best. And right now, a lot of people are saying that many of the wisdom traditions in physics are kind of inching towards one another, because they're talking about the nature of reality and energy, and looking for the God particle that kind of animates it all, or connects all of the dots and everything. And some of the things that they're saying, in contemporary quantum physics, that nothing truly exists. It's all in motion, in flux, and energy moving, and can be two places at one time, and all of those paradoxical things. So again, they're just paradigms and ways to speak of them.
Thank you for your insight.
May your life go.
Daiken-san.
Hey.
The teacher who speaks about loving kindness. He's also a photographer. And many, maybe all pictures that he posts are of a certain shape that evokes a feeling or an image of a heart with many other kinds of forms. A teacher talks about loving kindness, which my question is focused on is there are times when a person struggles to find loving kindness. There are times when groups of people feel that loving kindness is not the response to being confronted with non-loving kindness, and that there must be a response that doesn't appear to be as loving and kind, which can lead to conflict, violence. Where and how does one navigate loving kindness in a field where there is non-loving kindness?
The only thing that we can truly do is to develop that eye, that view within ourselves of loving kindness, and to understand that there are folks, for a variety of reasons, who have lost that ability. And if we're aware of that within ourselves, we have conversations with those around us. We have conversations as a Sangha about that process of losing that ability to view things with loving kindness because of hurt or violence or whatever, however that is expressed in the world. And to, turning the other cheek might be a little pat phrase, but to understand that those who perpetrate violence have a rationale for it, that they have an idea in their head that a circumstance is like this and the response is this, and to understand that that's their understanding, that's their expression, and that even in the midst of that, there can be loving kindness. There's a poem by Thich Nhat Hanh called "Call Me by My True Name." in which it's almost a list of loving the young lady who's being raped and loving the pirate who is raping her equally, finding that space. And that doesn't mean that we naively or Pollyannish accept violence and saying, oh, it's just the way things are. Like, no, we find ways to do whatever we can to make sure, A, that it doesn't happen, or that it doesn't happen again. There's a quote attributed to Mohandas Gandhi that says, an eye for an eye leaves the whole world blind. So if we can just open up a little bit and understand our actions have created, in some way, our actions have created a situation where someone felt like they needed to be snarky or be angry. And take that responsibility for ourselves instead of trying to make it so black and white and us and them and right and wrong and those things which have probably led to the situation in the first place. We think this is right to do this. And then people have a response saying, this is hurting me. And then there's no there's no response, or there's a more control or something like that, and then people feel they must do something to save themselves in some case. And so just taking a meta view of the whole thing and not making it so picking and choosing and black and white and good and bad. I mean, it's a long conversation, but. And then, for those of us who may not be directly involved in a situation, we do what we can to support people on both sides. Yeah, you're like,
Honorable Roshi, my question is as follows. What is the role of mindfulness in Soto Zen?
which mindfulness? Within the Buddhist tradition, within other wisdom traditions, there are practices that are called mindfulness. And then somewhere along the way, they got taken over by folks who wanted to teach it as a efficiency training or helping people become better able to multitask if you're mindful of what it is you're doing and what it is you have to do. And so, there are people making lots of money going into corporations and teaching mindfulness, which is not necessarily these practices of simply paying attention to everything. So there was a painter, an artist, 20th century named Robert Motherwell. And there's a quote that's attributed to him that says, I have a very particular perspective. I notice everything. And if you take a look at his art, he was able to combine, it's just amazing stuff of combining like a bed frame and a tractor tire and all of these things coming together in these amazing paintings that are just very dynamic and all that. So You know, the place of mindfulness is that we come back to our breath and we're aware of what is happening right here, right now. What's going on kind of within, what's going on around us, what we're aware of, opening up to what we might not be aware of. And doing our best to invite all of that into our awareness and understanding of this moment.
Thank you for your answer.
Maybe let's go. I don't know.
Back to the matter is, this question has a little bit of a story. Thing is, I have been looking into various philosophies and faiths recently because of events that have happened with my family and personal figures and a wide variety of things. But I've come to wonder, is this something of my own choice or is this something that has shaped me? And I wonder, is that something that many other people wonder about? At what point is it their own free will to search and try to acknowledge everything around them? Or is this a concept of basically, is this something that is forced onto them, or is this something of their own choice? I am apologizing.
No, it's fine.
Kind of
No need to apologize. I can't remember the citation, but I ran across recently. There's a book that's been published in which a neurobiologist makes the point that there's no such thing as free will. That given how the human brain has evolved over millions of years and all of the things that it can and cannot be aware of, that it's like a template that this is how things are. So we come up to a situation and it's right or left, and because of that, biology, neurology, brain chemistry, and all of that, we're going to choose a certain direction based on all of that. So he's saying there's no such thing as free will. And free will has been a topic of discussion. And so it's almost a matter of faith to think that we have free will. And we can move beyond that and just be present to what is happening, what's in front of us, and make a choice. And not be attached to an outcome, and just to allow it to unfold and see what happens, and to respond to what happens next. Many of these questions, I don't know that they can be answered. I know that we can say definitively, this is free will or this is not, because there's so much at play going on. And so we do our best, and we make a choice, and we follow a certain path for a period of time, and do our best to take it all in and see what's next. At any moment, we have any number of choices. And so we find one that aligns with our awareness, what we can be aware of, and our beliefs or understanding how things might be at this moment. And we do our best. And in Buddhism, they talk a lot about liberation. And what we do is we try to liberate ourselves from habits and from ideas that it needs to be a certain way, or even that we need to understand what it's all about, or what the nature of reality is, or how this all works, or who's right, or which wisdom tradition is most correct. I saw this cartoon that there were, the traditional kind of pearly gates. And these two people were walking up, and there were an angel on either side, and then on the other side, there were images that looked like hieroglyphics, like the cat god and Anubis and all of these things. And one of the people says, the two people who are going to enter into heaven said, "Who knew?" Spending, their whole life at whatever, and then it's like, wow, it's Egyptian. And not to make light of it, because it's serious, and it's an opportunity for us to be. We take a look at this moment and say, what's happening, and what am I aware of, and what am I feeling, what am I experiencing as fully as I can. And then that glides us in a direction. And so then we follow that for a while, and then we check in the next moment, and we take a breath. And there's a thought, or there's a feeling, and we're responsible for that. We have the ability to respond to that as fully as we can.
Thank you.
The morning God, we bow with all beings to realize everything without exception. I assume that includes joy and despair. Throughout the teachings, we're also admonished to have equity. How does our practice help us attain that?
These are just getting lighter and lighter as we go on.
The third Chinese patriarch Sung San wrote a poem, Faith in Mind, and he says, the great way is not difficult, just avoid picking and choosing. So that's difficult. Again, that's our practice. And that's what equanimity is. It's finding this place where we're not responding to our desires. We're wanting it to be different than it is. We acknowledge what is happening. We accept it. We feel drawn to respond in a certain way, without saying, oh my gosh, this is horrible. I don't want to be feeling this. I need to run away. Or this is very pleasurable. I want to hang out here for as long as I can. It's just, this is what is happening in this moment. And equanimity is balance. It's not one or the other. It's not defaulting towards liking, picking, and choosing, or running away from, or reveling in the adversity of it. It's just being aware that there I go again. And so we let go of that and we come back to just this moment as best as we can to understand this just as it is, without it needing to be a certain way or the way that we like it or the way that it always should be, or the way that Dogen said it should be, or whoever, or that it shouldn't be, and that's not good. And I might have told this story before, but there was when after I left, there was a fire at the Zen Center of Los Angeles, like something in the heating duct or something, and the teacher at the time was just thought fire would be a good thing to kind of focus on, and she was reading that there are certain seeds out in the wild that will only pop open when exposed to fire. So these seeds can lay dormant for centuries. And it needs that intense heat for them to pop open, and then they germinate and they grow. And so there are conditions that arise that make things possible. And our work is to do that from a place of, as the best that we can, of a place of connectedness and not self-interest. I want those plants, and so I'm going to burn, I'm going to set a fire, or that's a bit silly, but there, the foundational teaching of the Buddha is that most people are unsatisfied with their existence, and that the source of that is wanting things to be different. And so not wanting things to be different is that. And we do our best to find that space and move from there. And fail miserably and succeed wonderfully. And then the next one.
Roshi Daiken, I find myself perpetually perplexed by the nature of time. Always need to think of it in terms of the language of space, moving forward or backwards. So I wonder whether you can tell me what is time? How long is a moment? Are we trapped in it? How many grades of
A moment is not a discrete measurement. Dogen has a writing, Being Time or Time Being, in which he says, raising your eyebrows, not raising your eyebrows, that is the awakened nature of all reality. And this ceremony that we've done, this moment, and I've been babbling on forever, and so we're here for an hour and a half, and that is a moment. So it's not 60 seconds, or it's not the duration of one breath. That's one way to look at it. We can seconds, minutes, hours, days, morning time, afternoon, we can box it into a concept. But also Dogen writes, it's we don't say that. That the spring becomes winter. At what point exactly? Can we say spring, fall, and it's like, of course, yes, there are solstices, and the solstice happens at 12:23 because of the astrological alignment, and again, that's one way of looking at it. But it's, going outside today, is it winter or like very early spring? It's hard to say. So, again, we step back from ideas of concepts or needing it to be a certain way, and we just experience whatever is happening as it is. And that can be free because we're not saying, when did that moment stop? When did the next one going to begin? We're not kind of on that level of perception.
Thank you for your answer.
A different question, but we were really talking a lot about this, about the change my question here. In some of the chanting that we do, words, sometimes it'll say all beings, and sometimes all sentient beings. Why the distinction?
I don't know, it could be a translation thing. Yeah, I don't know that there's, I mean, I have seen it both ways. I think that's right. Yeah, I don't have a definitive answer as to why that may be. Again, different lineages have translated things differently. It comes from Pali and Sanskrit into Chinese, into Japanese, into English, or directly from Pali now. People have done translations directly from the source language or directly from Chinese, and so I think it may just be it may be a translation issue.
So, is the sentient being, the sentient part, always included,
Yes.
even if it's not said?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Right, and sometimes it's the 10,000 things, it's the 86,000 things, it's all beings, all sentient beings. It's meant to not exclude anything. So, maybe.
Daiken-san, in your poem at the Dragon's Gate, you look in the mirror and you see the same teacher and you see a different teacher. Who is looking in the mirror?
Awareness. Who isn't? Heard a talk once in which the person was advocating using presencing instead of presence. The talk I gave a couple weeks ago, I was talking about the paramitas and Kishanti, which is often translated as patience, and how when we think of patience, it can often be outcome oriented. I'm going to be patient for this outcome, or I'm going to be patient until this certain thing happens or stops happening. And in that same way, presence can also be seen as this one state, that I need to get to this state of being present. And the qualities of that are blah blah blah. And so this idea of presencing moment by moment, breath by breath, I can see this face in the mirror. And I can also remember the face of poor misguided youth 37 years ago who walked into the Unitarian Church, found their way upstairs to the loading zone. And that person, that being is present here right now. So it's both of us and neither of us. Because as soon as I say it's this, it moves on to the next moment, to the next constellation. Grow, now particles. So it's all of me and nothing in me, and seeing what it sees and respond.
Thank you for your answer.
Alrighty, we made it. Thank you all. It's really been lovely. Here's to a new beginning.
Did we have any questions from
No,
other members online? We're having
a little too complicated. Apologies to the online people that we don't get to ask a question. So we'll end with the Bodhisattva vows, and then 3 vows, and then next.
it would make any more.
Thank you.
I vow to discern the ways of the gospel. I vow to retain it, being from the brothers. I vow to stay them. Possible. I vow to live into them. Unsurpassable.
We'll do that. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good.